We continue now at the top of Daf Chaf Aleph on Beis and Meseches Pesachim. This is Pesachim Daf 21b. The Gemara here is continuing a brisa. Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira Omer. Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira Omer kusach. If you have a dip, this is a dip that used to have crumbs of bread in it. V'chol mine kusach, any type of kusach. Aser limchor shloshim yom kodem lePesach. You're now allowed to sell it to a non-Jew 30 days before Pesach. Rashi over here says, Rabbi Yehuda Omer kusach nosten bo perurei lechem. They used to put in crumbs of bread. Va'asr mishum chametz. It's prohibited because of chametz. Shloshim yom, 30 days. The svira like Beis Shammai. Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira holds like Beis Shammai that you're not allowed to sell it to a non-Jew unless you know the non-Jew will consume it before Pesach. V'zeh eino nechal ma'ir. Kusach is not eaten quickly. Shein ochleno so ela matavilim bo. You don't eat it. You just dip into it. V'hani shloshim yom misha shechol of chovas bior. The reason 30 days is because that's when the obligation to do bior is chal. Misha shoel in behilchas haPesach. That's the time that we begin asking shilas in hilchas Pesach. Gemara continues at the two dots. Umutter b'hana. It's mutter to derive benefit. Rashi over here says umutter b'hana also. Kasalka daitach. Right now we think asha shemutter lechol koi. We're going on the hour that it's mutter to eat the chametz. It's also mutter to derive benefit. So the Gemara says pshita. Isn't that obvious? And Rashi over here says pshita do amrit machil u'mocher hainu hana. We said that he can feed it, he can sell. That is that deriving benefit. So what do you need to say? It's mutter to get benefit. So the Gemara says lo tzricha. No, it's needed. Shecharchu kodem zmano, that he scorched it before the time of the destruction. Rashi here explains lo tzricha v'hai mutter. When it says over here it's mutter to get benefit, ala achar zman koi. We're talking about after the time that it is permitted to eat chametz. The case is that he burned it, he scorched it with a fire well before the zman of the destruction came. Shebatel taimo umariso. The point of the Gemara is that the taste and the look of chametz has been nullified. It no longer looks or tastes like chametz, and that's the chiddush, that it's mutter b'hana in that situation. The kamash malon k'derava. The chiddush of the Mishnah is like Rava says. The Yomar Rava, because Rava says charchu kodem zmanu. If he scorches the chametz before the time of the destruction, so he makes it again, it doesn't look, it doesn't taste like chametz. Mutter b'hana. He's allowed to derive benefit from the chametz. Afilu la'achar zmanu. Even after the time when it's already time to start destroying the chametz, even at that point in time, it's going to be mutter to derive benefit. Avar zmano aser b'hanaso. Then it says when the time passes, he's no longer allowed to derive benefit. Gemara says again, pshit, that's obvious. Once the time for destroying the chametz has passed, of course you can't get benefit. Now Rashi over here says, Avar zmano aser b'hana l'shos derabban hachi garsina v'lo garsina pshita. Rashi says, take out the word pshita. That's not really what the Gemara is in saying, that it's obvious that it's prohibited in benefit, because it's not that obvious. So afilu b'Pesach, because even on Pesach, itzrich lashmin, and you would still need a chiddush that you can't get benefit on Pesach. Ha'iko Rabbi Yossi Aglili, because there is the position of Rabbi Yossi Aglili, the shari b'hana kol shiva. He actually allows you to get benefit from chametz for all 7 days of Pesach. L'kamon, we're going to say that later on. So Rashi says you should take out of the Gemara the word pshita, but in any case, Gemara says lo tzricha. No, it's needed l'shos derabanan. It is saying that if the time for destroying the chametz has passed, it is aser b'hana even in the hours that are only derabanan. Rashi over here explains l'shos derabanan. Kolomar means to say hai zmano zman achiloso mashma. What we're talking about is the time when you can eat it. So the time for eating it has passed. V'afilu shah shishis, and we're really still in the 6th hour. She'eni sur elam derabanan, where the prohibition to get benefit is not d'oraisa, it's just derabanan. Have a aser af b'hana. The chiddush of the Mishnah is even in the 6th hour, where the prohibition of the chametz is only derabanan, it's going to be aser even to get any benefit. And the Gemara says, the Amar Rav Gidel Amar Rav Chia Bar Yosef Amar Rav Yochanan, because Rav Gidel says in the name of Rav Chia Bar Yosef, in the name of Rav Yochanan, Hamekadesh Mishei Shos Olamal. If someone does a kiddushin, a person gets married from the 6th hour and on Erev Pesach, Afila bechite kordanisa, even with the wheat of kordanisa, the chiddush is the wheat of kordanisa was very hard, but still, if some water falls on it, you have a real concern. It might be chametz. So even with the chite kordanisa, if you do kiddushin in the 6th hour, ein choshen lekiddushin, it's not going to be a good kiddushin. The chiddush is, even though the chametz is only prohibited on a derabanan level in the 6th hour, the kiddushin, which kiddushin is generally doraisa, is still not going to work at all. And the Gemara continues at the two dots, v'lo yasik bo tanra v'kirayim. It says that you can't use the chametz when it's prohibited to derive benefit. You can't use it to light a fire for your oven or your stove. So the Gemara says, pshita, isn't that obvious? If you can't get benefit, of course you can't use it for like firewood. Gemara says, lo tzricha, no, it's needed. Lo Rabbi Yehuda, according to Rabbi Yehuda, because he says the proper way to destroy chametz is by burning it. So salka daita chamina. So you might have thought, Hoel v'amar Rabbi Yehuda mitzvasu b'sreifa. Since Rabbi Yehuda holds the mitzvahs to burn it, bahade de kasarif leilasani mine. So while he's burning it, let him get benefit also. He's doing the mitzvah of destroying it. He could get some benefit. Derech agav. The Gemara says kamash malon. Mishnah saying that's not allowed. He's got to burn it in a fashion where he gets no benefit. And the Gemara continues at the Tudat. Amar Chizkiah says, Minayin l'chametz b'Pesach she'aser b'hana. How do I know that chametz on Pesach is aser to derive benefit from it? Shenamar, because the pasuk says, Lo yeyachel chametz. The chametz should not be eaten, which means Lo yehebo heter achila. There should be no heter that allows you to come to achila. Rashi explains. Lo yeyachel means the karina lo yeyachel mashma lo yehebo heter hamevi lidei shum achila. No heter should be there which will bring to eating. Ustam hanos lidei achila heim bos. If we would allow benefit, if we would allow hana, that would come to eating. Shalokech bedamim dvar machal. You're going to take the money and you're going to use it to buy some food. So lo yeyachel chametz, that tells you that you're not allowed to get hana. Gemara says, time at the cost of Rachmana lo yechel chametz. So the reason seems to be because it uses the word yeyachel. Halo kasav lo yeyachel. If it didn't say yeyachel, hava amina, then I would have thought isra achila mashma, that it only means you can't eat chametz. Isra hano lo mashma, but it does not imply you cannot derive benefit. In other words, according to Chizkiah, the fact that it doesn't say yochal but it says yeyachel, so that teaches us that it's asr b'hana. And normally, if the Torah says you can't eat something, it just means you can't eat it, but you'd be allowed to get benefits. Upliga de Rabbi Avo. That position argues on the position of Rabbi Avo. The Amar Rabbi Avo, because Rabbi Avo says, Kol makom shenemar lo yochal, lo sochal, lo sochlu. Anytime it says something like a person can't eat it, echad isra achila, v'echad isra hana b'mashma. It means both you can't eat it and you can't derive benefit. That's automatic. Ad she'par l'cha kasav, kederech she'par l'ch b'nevela. Unless the pasuk specifies in a manner, like we're going to see in a moment, by nevela, by an animal that dies, not through shchita, there the Torah goes out of its way to say otherwise. But if the Torah does not go out of its way, it automatically implies that you're not allowed to get benefits. The Tanya, because we learned in a brisa, lo sochlu kol nevela, it says, person cannot eat nevela. La ger asher b'sharecha tetanena v'achola. He should give it to the ger. Rashi says we're talking about a ger toshav. That's somebody who is not Jewish. He lives in Israel and he takes upon himself the sheva mitzvahs b'nei Noach. So it says you can give the nevela to a ger, machor l'nachri v'gomer, or he can sell it to a non-Jew. So there the pasuk goes out of its way to say you can get benefit. If the pasuk would not have done that, the benefit would have been prohibited. And the Gemara says, or the Brisa says, Ein li'el lager b'nesino l'nachri b'mechira. I only know that you're allowed to give it to a ger and you're allowed to sell it to a non-Jew. Lager b'mechira minayin. How do I know I could sell it to a ger? Talmud lomar lager asher b'sharecha tetanena o machor. It says, give it o machor. We'll read the selling to go on ger. And l'nachri b'nesino minayin. Similarly, how do you know you can give it to a non-Jew? Maybe you can only sell it. Talmud lomar tetanena v'achola o machor l'nachri. It says tetanena and machor, both the tetanena and the machor are going on the non-Jew as well. Nimsa somer, what comes out is echad ger v'echad nachri, whether the person is a ger, whether the person's a nachri. Bein b'mechira, bein b'nesina, he can be sold in nevela, he can be given the nevela. Divrei Rabbi Meir, that's the position of Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yehuda says, Devarim kichsava, no, we take the pasuk literally. La ger b'nesina u'lenachri b'mechira. You can take the nevela and give it to a ger, you can sell it to a nachri, but you cannot sell it to a ger or give it to a nachri. Gemara says, my time with Rabbi Yehuda, what's the reason of Rabbi Yehuda? Why does he take it so literally? Isalka daitach kidam Rabbi Meir. Well, if you thought, like Rabbi Meir says, that both are going on both, the selling and the giving are going on both ger and nachri, if you think that, lichtov rachmana lager asher b'sharecha titanena v'achala umachor, it should say, give it and sell it. Oh, lamali, what's with the word or? The word o seems to be a separation. Shema mino l'dvarim kechsavin. You see, you should read it as it sounds. In other words, you only have one possibility for each. You're only going to either give it to a ger or sell it to a nachri. And the Gemara says, Rabbi Meir, what does Rabbi Meir do with the word o? O lahakdim nesina de ger lemechira de nachri. O is to say that it's the preference is to give it to a ger before you sell it to a nachri. So it's really just saying what the order should be. Giving it to a ger should precede selling it to a nachri. For Rabbi Yehuda says, Halo tzarech kra. You don't even need a pasuk for that. Kaven de ger atam mitzuva la'achioso. Since a ger, a person is commanded to help sustain him, to help him live. V'nachri iya atam mitzuva la'achioso. And when it comes to a non-Jew, there's no such command to sustain him. So lo tzarech kra. You don't even need a pasuk. Svaru, it's obvious. It's logical that the giving it to a ger would precede selling it to the non-Jew. Gemara says, B'shalam Rabbi Meir. It's correct according to Rabbi Meir. Diyamar echad ger v'echad nachri bein b'mechira bein b'nesina. Meaning, Rabbi Avo's position makes sense according to Rabbi Meir. Again, Rabbi Avo's position was that in general, anytime it says you can't eat something, it means you can't get benefit. That makes perfect sense within Rabbi Meir, because Rabbi Meir says the pasuk is going out of its way to say you could get benefit from this item. From the fact the pasuk is going out of its way to say, you know what, you could get benefit by nevela. We can derive from Rabbi Meir that standard isurim in the Torah where it says don't eat, it means don't eat and don't get benefit. That derivation works according to Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yehuda, but according to Rabbi Yehuda, who says no, this pasuk has a very particular meaning. It means you're allowed to give it to a ger and you're allowed to sell it to a non-Jew, and that's all you're allowed to do. So then, what's the source that in general, all other isurim that you can't eat something, you also can't get benefit? There's no real good source, because here, the pasuk is not going out of its way to say it's mutter to get benefits. On the contrary, maybe it's always mutter to get benefit. The pasuk is going out of its way to say here the benefit is limited. Normally it's totally mutter to get benefit, but by nevela, you can only give it to a ger, you can only sell it to a non-Jew. So on the contrary, you don't have a source from this pasuk. So where, according to Rabbi Avo, within Rabbi Yehuda, where is the source that anytime it says you can't eat something, it means you can't get hana? So the Gemara says, Nafkalei, Rabbi Avo learns it out according to Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Avo learns it out, milakelev tashlichon oso. Talking not about nevela, the pasuk here is talking about treifa. It says a person can't eat a treifa. A treifa, again, is an animal that has some kind of a mortal wound, so we know it's going to die from this wound, and that's also not kosher. So it says you're not allowed to eat it, and then it says you should throw it to the dog. And again, that pasuk seems to indicate that the pasuk goes out of its way to indicate it's mutter b'hana, and we'll continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Chav Beis Amud Aleph.